Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. So when you think about wealth, do you picture numbers on a spreadsheet or the impact that you're going to leave behind? Today's conversation will challenge the way you think about money, health, and legacy. So welcome to the Business Behind Your Business podcast, where we help small and medium business owners uncover the strategies for growth and purpose. And in this episode, we're going to explore the intersection of philanthropy, financial empowerment, and women's health in aging, and why we're going to discover true wealth is more than just about the dollars. So today's guest is Nancy Griffin. She's the founder of Women, Worth and Wellness, a movement she launched back in 1994 to close the gap in conversations around women's financial and philanthropic leadership. Nancy's career spans corporate leadership at Procter & Gamble, a run in federal politics, and decades of work in wealth management and community boards. Nancy's been nationally recognised with the Canada 125 Award for Outstanding Community Leadership, and her mission today is clear: helping women align their health, wealth, and their values. So what you're going to learn from our conversation today, so you need to keep listening, is why legacy planning is not just about assets, it's about purpose. We're also going to learn how women can lead the conversation in philanthropy and financial decision-making. And we're going to uncover some practical steps to align your wealth, health, and values for long-term impact. So, Nancy, I'm delighted to welcome you to the Business Behind Your Business podcast.
Paul, thank you so much. And I guess we're Commonwealth cousins, right?
Absolutely. So we've got a bit of history there. The Canadian connection is pretty strong in my office. We've got guests worldwide, but love the connection with Canada. But also, I'm particularly keen and loving what you have been doing. And now I'm going to describe you as a bit of a pioneer, because what you started movement was back in the 1990s, before a lot of this took, I guess, before people took notice of this and started to do a lot more. It really took a focus on the role of women in business, the role of women in philanthropy, and how women really need to take stock of their health and wellness so that they can actually be more empowered to do the great things that they do. Now, we were chatting before, and I mentioned that a lot of the key business owners rely so heavily on that second person of value, and that second person in value is often not the guy with the title, but it's the woman in the office that's been there for so long and is so critical to everything that happens in that business. And we've seen that the trend and the Australian trend is pretty much the same as what we're seeing around the globe, is that more and more women are starting businesses and growing businesses in this 21st century. So you started this whole movement. What was the inspiration for why you needed to, or why you saw the vision to do that back in 1994?
Good question, Paul. Well, I was recruited into the wealth advisory business. And so, as you know, you've got to have some licenses in order to sell securities, et cetera, and insurance. You've got to have that in order. And the firm that I was working with had a fabulous training program. So all systems are go. The only challenge is that I don't have any clients. And they said, okay, Nancy, you've got to go find your own clients. And part of the training was they really reinforced who you're going to work with are people to whom you feel you can add value to their future, not just their financial future, but their whole future, because that relationship will be deep and it will be long. And those relationships are absolutely invaluable as a trusted wealth advisor. And so I thought, okay, well, who are the people that I really feel that I want to work with? And that's when I decided that I would prospect women, not exclusively, but primarily. And so in doing that, there was an investment firm at the time that had a marketing program that was all about that. It was called Investing in Yourself, specifically targeted towards women. So all I had to do was curate an event, which I did, And it was the first Saturday in November, which is kind of a sweet spot when you think about it in Canada, because it's after the summer, kids are back in school, Halloween is over, and Christmas hasn't really begun yet. And so I did some marketing, did some advertising, did it at a really exclusive golf course, and over 150 women showed up. It was like, oh my goodness, it was so successful. And I think, as you probably know, Paul, when women go places, they normally go in a pack. You know, one person will say, "Did you hear about the whatever?" Well, that sounds interesting. I'd like to come too. And so now I've got all these women with whom I've got to follow up and meet with them one on one. And so as I started to meet with women, I realized that they've got an overwhelming amount of responsibility in their daily responsibilities of their family's health and well being. And it's like every home, the mom is the nurse practitioner. So I thought, oh my goodness, I mean, I know certain things about health and wellness, but I'm not an expert. So that's when I decided to partner with not for profit health related organizations focusing on women's health and wellness. Because really, the cornerstone to our entire existence is being healthy before we focus on wealth. And the healthier we are, obviously, the more confident we become, which means that we can reach out and build our businesses and do all the things that we want to do.
Yeah, and like that's interesting that you were part of a program back in the 90s, which actually helped you develop, I guess, the way of looking at your what is the need, what is the gap, and who are you going to service, and how are you going to do it. So I think back to, look, today, it was a lot easier to probably get the marketing out, to get the message out. But back in the 90s, you know, we had a lot less resources available, a lot less channels to actually communicate, but to get 150 people there for that first event. But what you identified very clearly was there were some gaps and needs. You saw a definite need there, and you set about, I guess, creating a service, creating a relationship with those people where you met those needs. But you also identified that you needed some other skill sets and I guess some resources to I guess complement what you could do, but give them a more complete solution.
Right. It really was very collaborative, because in Toronto, which was where I was based at the time, we have a hospital that's called Women's College Hospital, over 100 years old. So their whole focus is on women's health and wellness research programs, treatments, all those sorts of things. So it was very easy for me to go to them and ask them what seminars they were offering, and then invite my clients to come. So developed a really, really positive relationship. Also, as they went to these events, I charged a nominal amount, like $25 or $50, which was introducing the whole concept of charitable giving, but how charitable giving enhances your net worth because you have that tax deduction. But also building on that, we often know that the recipient of a gift is the person who has given the gift, because it enhances your self-worth. And so here we are, 30 plus years later, and philanthropy and legacy planning for women is a really, really hot topic, really hot topic. And it's a hot topic because women have evolved so much over that 30-year time frame. They have more money that they've earned, but they also have money now that they're inheriting, with a whole lot more to come. So the whole aspect of women stewarding wealth is huge.
So there's a couple of things I want to sort of dive into a bit deeper. You mentioned that women are now coming into, they're running businesses now, they're inheriting wealth, they've now got more funding than they did 30 years ago. Is there still a large gap in, I guess, the financials or financial savings or wealth position of women compared to where we think it should be?
Well, again, over the last 30 years, a lot has evolved. And a lot of wealth that you are stewarding is all about power. And so women's power is emerging as well. You mentioned that you are, in your podcast guest list, you have a lot of people who are starting new businesses. 30 years ago, that wasn't happening to the same extent that it is now. Women are really, really, really coming into their own. And this is kind of a, it's a new frontier. because women are not used to being the person who's driving the bus, but now very much they're driving the bus. But in doing so, that means that you have to become even more discerning and more sophisticated than you have been up until now, because you may have been working with someone who is that, in effect, bus driver, the person who's kind of clearing the path, who's got the knowledge, who's got the resources. But now that's all coming onto the shoulders of women. And women have always wanted power, and women have always been capable of power. But really, they didn't have that power until now. So it's emerging in a really, really, really important way.
Yeah, and I think statistically what we're seeing is that a greater proportion of new businesses, of that small, medium business market, is, I guess, founded by or controlled by women. If we look at the over 50s, particularly in Australia, the majority of those are male-owned. We're seeing a lot more women actually starting business. And I guess the advancements in technology have meant it's a lot easier for someone to start a business from their home or online. But we still see some gaps in there, because traditionally what we used to see is a lot of women would be working in the workforce, exit that for a time, generally to raise families. But there was that financial gap that seemed to develop. How do we overcome that in our planning? Because one of the other traps that I see a lot of small business, and we've had this conversation previously, is a lot of small, medium business owners don't actually set aside funds. They don't contribute to their own retirement because they're so focused on their reinvesting in their business.
Right, building their business. Well, I think a couple of points. More and more young women are starting their own businesses, because no longer can you count on working for a big firm and having a career in that firm, even possibly for 10 to 12 years. So more and more women are thinking about starting their own businesses right off the bat. But in doing so, and again, this is a really, really key point, the big deal is to start the business. The big deal is to get the business underway. The big deal is never to think about, what is my exit plan from this business? Never. We're always just so focused on getting into business and building the business that very often we really, really forget about the future. A couple of things that I have talked about is that when you work for a company for 5 to 10 years, you probably have a suite of benefits. And then when you want to start your own business, those benefits, some may transfer to you, most won't. But then you've got to get your own benefits. Well, now you're 5, 10, 15 years older, and maybe you're not as healthy as you were earlier on. So depending on what your intentions are early on, you might want to start off with your own suite of benefits, personally, that you enhance with whichever company you're working with. Because really, you've got to pay attention to your health being the best it's ever going to be when you're younger, and the cost of buying those benefits the least expensive when you're younger. But of course, when people are young, are they thinking about death? No. Actually, I'll just share one example. I have a friend who was a trustee for a young person. The young person turned 18. So he introduced the 18-year-old to the wealth advisor who had been managing the funds all along. Like, in other words, we're doing the transition now. The wealth advisor said to this 18-year-old, I'll be delighted to keep on working on this portfolio, but I have 2 requirements. One is that you have a current will and that you have an accountant. Now, how powerful is that you're introducing an estate plan to an 18-year-old? I mean, that guy will be way ahead of the curve, because most people just don't pay attention to that at all.
It's great that to start thinking very, very early on, because as you mentioned, those insurance policies, so much easier to get when you're younger. They're also cheaper to get. The later you leave it, the more expensive and harder it becomes to get those insurances in place. But also, I guess, thinking long term, so working with an accountant from the beginning, having an estate plan from the beginning, very important. Now, it sort of leads into something that we were saying before we hit record. You mentioned something about a lot of business owners, or most business owners, ignore the question when they start their business of, what does the end look like?
Right. Begin with the end in mind. And also, to your point about philanthropy, More often than not, one of the best ways to build your business is to be visibly philanthropic. It shows that you're a community leader. Well, if you're a community leader, what are you all about? What is your business all about? And why are you thinking that this is a priority? And often the best place to start is with your local hospital. That's kind of where everything begins as it pertains to philanthropy. The other thing that you have to be careful with pertaining to philanthropy is that you really, really understand the organization to whom you're directing dollars. Because the last thing that you want to do is go through a lot of soul searching about being philanthropic, agree to direct some dollars elsewhere, and then get a big surprise. You never want that to happen. So you really, really have to be discerning. And that's why I really encourage people to have a really positive relationship with a trusted wealth advisor to give you some guidance and give you some help.
So a couple of things that you mentioned, that philanthropy is visible in your community. Now, most small, medium business owners, in fact, all of them, will be working in a community. They are part of a community. You're very visible. And it's the community, the businesses inside that community that actually drive. They're the ones that sponsor the local teams, sponsor the community events, contribute to local hospitals or benevolent funds. Very important for business to continue to do that, not just to be visible because the community depends on it, but also very important that the business actually thrives and gets good advice so that it can continue to contribute to those organisations.
Exactly. I'm a Rotarian, and you're probably familiar with Rotary. Maybe you're a Rotarian too, but it was started by a business owner, and very simply, but there are lots of really, really fabulous not-for-profit organizations who would love to have your support.
And look, and I think one of the things that we often see is, particularly when businesses are starting, that they don't feel that they've got the funds to contribute, but there are other ways that you can contribute to those organisations. Are there any examples that you've seen that work really well?
Well, several different ways. But again, insurance is really, really powerful. And there are all sorts of different kinds of insurance. So that's something that you would discuss with your wealth advisor in terms of what's ideal, how much does it cost, and if I'm directing some of these proceeds to a charitable organization, do I have a tax deduction? So again, there's a whole wealth opportunity to have that conversation, understand your options, and then pick the one that you feel best serves you. But, a lot of philanthropists have done very well in their businesses because of their public philanthropic statement. Now, you're not going to head out and start to give a bunch of money away just because you think it's a good thing to do. It has to fit in with a whole plan. Definitely a whole plan.
You mentioned it fits in with your plan. I guess the best way to actually come up with what's your best plan is to get advice, to start working with a wealth advisor or financial advisor in that situation. When is the best time to start? And, what is there a great way or a plan of doing this? I think you've got some programs that you've developed that actually make it more, I guess, a step-by-step process.
Well, I think one of the best ways is often people have come about starting their own business because of their family's influence. Maybe their family was a business owner or had thought about entrepreneurship. So sometimes when those family members are already in business, they've established some key contacts. And those introductions to you as a young person are invaluable, absolutely invaluable, because you're in effect bridging that, not just the wealth, but you're bridging wisdom, and relationships are invaluable. But at the same time, you can't just accept that relationship without understanding perfectly clearly that it's an appropriate relationship for you in terms of where you're at and where you're headed. So you've always got to own whatever's going on, whatever you're trying to accomplish, and with whomever you are seeking advice. Because taking advice from the wrong person can have really bad consequences, the same way taking advice from the right person can have really, really good results. So again, be discerning, be discerning.
So I guess in that, it's a case of, like you mentioned, understand the person that you're getting advice from, but maybe compare a different provider as well, and find the one that fits with you.
Right.
Find the person that actually you feel that you trust the most, but also look at their credibility. Make sure they've got the qualifications they say they have. Have they got the experience? Have they worked with somebody similar to you before? So we talked about that. Now, Nancy, there was one concept that you mentioned early on, and going right back to the beginning when you started working with the Women's Hospital in Toronto, you mentioned a word that's really become more of a buzzword today, or I guess an ideal today, and this is the whole idea of collaboration. Back in the 90s, we really didn't have this whole idea of collaboration. We had this idea of scarcity, and we'd look after ourselves. But can you just explain how collaborating with other businesses and, I guess, providers can actually increase your ability to add value?
Well, a book that I have recommended a lot recently is called The Third Paradigm. So it's even building on collaboration. The first paradigm is competition. Second is collaboration. The third is co-creating. So that's where you really, really work together. Because you're right. In the past, we thought we could do it all by ourselves, and we worked hard to do it all by ourselves. But now one of the best ways to leverage what you're trying to accomplish is to look at other people with whom you can collaborate or co-create. And it's just as simple as understanding what their priorities are, what they're working on, and fit that in with the direction you're heading in, and how you can work together to do some things that are going to make an even bigger difference. Not just in terms of the people you're reaching out to, but roll it back in terms of your individual organizations and how that's a true enhancement.
Yeah, so it's a groundbreaking thought there, and well ahead of your time. I love that you set up this process, this structure, this the women wealth and wellness movement back in the 90s, well before it became a buzzword, became popular. We have so many opportunities today. What are the key things that, the one thing that somebody starting a business, say a young woman starting a business today, what is the one thing that they must do?
Well, one thing that's been really, really helpful in getting to next quickly is joining a peer-to-peer confidential advisory group. And there are many more now for women than there ever were before. And very simply, as a business owner, you get a seat at the table with 10 or 12 other female business owners. In other words, you're all in this together. You've got different businesses. So more often than not, there's no competition. And more often than not, whatever that organization is will not allow two people to be there who are in the same business. So now all of a sudden you've got 10 other people who hear what you're trying to accomplish and how you're currently going about doing it. And then they will give you their feedback. And these are other business owners like you who are experienced, who in their world have other contacts and ideas and perspectives that they willingly share with you. And it's all confidential, doesn't go outside of the room. I've been involved with 2 different organizations where that whole experience is invaluable, really, really invaluable. Saves you a lot of time trying to track down, an XYZ resource to help you with new windows for your new building that you're about to take on. So I think, I'm not sure if BNI, BNI is the peer-to-peer, but an organization in Canada is called Grow Your Biz, GYB, Grow Your Biz. But, just Google peer-to-peer advisory groups for women and see what comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the BNI networks, GYB, they're quite well known. BNI is quite a worldwide organisation. One of the things I found very valuable is your local business chamber of commerce.
Oh,
will often have similar organisations, processes. I know the one that I've been part of here in the Hills District in Sydney, absolutely invaluable. And like you said, it's confidential, a lot of resources, a lot of tapping into, I guess, the skill sets and the experience of other people, which will save you a lot of time and also give you some great feedback along the way. The other area that I would suggest you're starting out, if you are a woman in business or even just a woman who is looking for more guidance about how you can actually improve your health, wealth, and I guess your legacy, is to check out the resources and programs available on Women's Worth and Wellness. We're going to put links to the website and also how to find out more about what Nancy's been doing, which is quite a lot over that period. She's been quite groundbreaking. We're going to put the links in the show notes and also on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website. Nancy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. If there was one thing that you wanted to leave our listeners with today, what would that be?
I think just own your life, first of all. It's a special privilege to have a special life. It's your number one asset. So own your life and then live your life and love your life.
Fantastic. Thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome, Paul. All the best.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favourite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit and send in your burning questions because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.